Hello there, and welcome to another episode of We Read It One Night, the podcast where we get down and dirty with romance novels that make you want to stay up all night reading. This week, I'm joined by Hannah and Caroline of the Romance Your TBR podcast to talk about A Kingdom of Dreams by Judith McNaught, the old school historical romance you didn't know you needed to read. Join us as we follow Royce and Jenny, Tudor Era enemies turned lovers, and their stories' bizarre parallels with Amazon's shifter show, My Lady Jane. Also, for the old school uninitiated, we give you our recommendations for baby's first bodice ripper. Don't forget to drop us a rating and review while you're listening, check out our Etsy shop, and enjoy the show.
Hello.
Hello. I never know how to start when
Me neither.
I never know.
We don't
It's
know how to
very...
start
My sister and I usually just gossip and then I edit it to make it seem like it's smooth. Hello, listener. Welcome.
Not we've ruined your flow of how to banter into it.
Today I am joined by Hannah and Caroline from Romance Your TBR, the podcast. Caroline and I were connected. We both worked in publishing at the same house that I fled years ago. But you still work there.
I do.
Do you guys want to introduce yourselves further?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, don't talk to me. I agreed to be on your podcast, but I do not want to speak. I'm Caroline of as you said, Romance Your TBR. And also, as you said, I work in publishing. I work in marketing and publicity on mostly romance novels. And that's really, I love books and I love historical romance. So my only personality traits are related to books, except for Formula One, which I've also managed to make related to books.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's in the book world now.
Exactly. So it all comes back.
I love that for you.
Turtles all the way down. Hannah, over to you.
Over to me. Okay, I'm Hannah. I am the other half of Romance Your TBR. I work tangentially, I guess, in the industry. I work for a romance fiction app. And I guess I'm also just a lover of books, and my entire personality is both books and bangs and glasses. Yeah. All things present on my Instagram page. My entire personality is those things.
And you're an audiobook girly, which we were talking about, listener, before
absolutely. Caroline too.
Yes.
We're very much, we're very pro audiobooks. 2 times speed minimum.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I will fight
I get it up
who
to
says,
3.
Yeah, no, same.
I've done it for Obama's memoir. I was I wish that I could put this up to 5 because this man talks so slowly.
It does. It depends on the narrator.
I have some issues sometimes, which is a good issue to have, is that I'll have some advanced audiobooks. And some of those apps only go up until 2 speed. And sometimes I just can't. I think I've stopped audiobooks and waited for pub day and then got them again, from Libby or something, and then sped them up. Because I'm I can't. Because a lot of times it's if I'm not really enjoying a book, I'm not a DNFer. So I want to finish it, but I don't want to finish it at 2 times speed. I want to get through it as quick as possible. So sometimes I just need to go, or sometimes they'll just slow and I just need it faster because I can't focus.
Yeah.
If it's slower than that.
Yeah, exactly. I think the only audiobook I've listened to at regular speed was Matthew McConaughey's
his was good.
memoir. And that was mostly just because I enjoyed listening. His voice was just very soothing. I was I don't really care about the content so much. It's like music.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm used to him talking at 1 time speed, I guess. Because you grew up with Matthew McConaughey's voice. We listened to that, I think, on a road trip or something with my family. That one was good. I think the only ones I can do are ones I grew up listening to as a kid. Like Percy Jackson, we were talking about before we started recording this. I can't do those fast. It just sounds weird to me because I grew up. My brain knows that speed. I think even maybe The Hating Game. Because I read that one right when I started really getting into more audiobooks and even just romance. And so I probably listened to that at 1.25 or 1.5. And I think I tried to go up to 2 one time. I was oh, no, my memories, this is tainting it. I couldn't. So it's really how I memorized it as when I first listened to it. So for those like older ones, but most of the time it's 2
The only
plus.
time I have an issue is like I don't have specific titles, but sometimes with nonfiction. It depends on the topic, and it also depends on the narrator. If it's a narrator that's already speaking at a reasonable speed to me, and it's a topic that I have to focus on, like sometimes I have that problem with like history. Not that I read a lot of history nonfiction. It's like the history
I'm a big
of
World War
Formula
II
One.
buff.
No, it's like Formula One history. I've read a lot of those recently, or like one I just read, which actually I kept thinking about in relation to the book we're going to talk about, which was interesting. But it's called Achilles in Vietnam, and it was written by like a doctor who worked with Vietnam vets with intense PTSD, and like looking at the ways that the Iliad read through that lens can sort of shine a light on the behaviors of these veterans. Fascinating book, but I could not get it past like 1.8, I think.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's still faster, but it was like it's number one, very traumatic, and like just like very intense, and he's already speaking at a normal speed. And so if I wanted to absorb any of it, I was like, okay, you cannot crank this up. Can't do it. I know.
Focus.
Most nonfiction I can get to like 2. Romance though, 3 times, baby. Let's go. Pick up the pace.
Sometimes the accent is like, if it's like a historical, sometimes a British accent, I'm like, I can do 2 times, but I can't do faster.
If it's contemporary British romances, I can't freaking understand, like, especially past 2. But like I don't read a lot of like contemporary British romances. They're just not really my tea.
I read like Talia Hibbert. That's like basically it.
Yeah, that's probably about it. And I guess her narrator, the one that I remember, he was like an old man and he was horrible, but they've replaced him.
The new one is so good.
Yeah. Bye, old man. You've been cut off. So yeah, but I think I just really process it better in audio. I don't know. I feel like I can be more productive, even if I'm just like sitting and staring at my wall. But normally if I'm at 3, it's because I don't want to be listening. But I think the only one positively that like listened to at 3 was what that Lavyrle Spencer one, Caroline. Was it Morning Song? Morning Glory.
Morning Glory.
Oh yeah.
I was I just wanted to get to the end to know what was happening. I was like, I just kept speeding it up because I was like, I'm so curious. There was like a huge courtroom battle, and I was like, I just need to know.
10 out of 10 recommend.
It was so good.
I need to read more Lavyrle Spencer.
And there's a movie about that book. Yeah.
Is there?
I need to watch it. I haven't. Like, I've known this for a while now, and I still haven't watched it, which is
never shared. We could do a whole episode on that.
I think I have the movie. I bought the movie cover book.
Wow.
Looking around.
It's like you've been gatekeeping this.
I feel a little bit betrayed. It's fine.
I'm very excited. But yeah, I don't know when it was made, but
I hope it's not terrible. That'll ruin it for me.
That's very true.
Okay. Well, today we are also doing an all-time classic, and I think this is one of my favorite historical romances, and it's Judith McNaught's Kingdom of Dreams. Listener, if you haven't read this book and you want to, I just want to pre-warn that it came out in 1989. And so you need to I need you to like go into this as if you're going to read Twisted Love by Anna Huang. You just have to accept that there are different standards for this man.
And although it's not as bad.
It's very tame. It's not Whitney, My Love.
Not even that. Like Whitney, My Love is honestly a lot tamer than some that because Caroline and I like went on a
like
old school
or any of
like the Black Lion.
Oh, I haven't read
We haven't read that one yet.
Yeah.
There's one that I know I won't read, but I don't remember what that one was called. I'm just like, I know myself.
You're gonna need to figure that out.
I've been working up the courage to read The Flame and the Flower, because that's like the start of modern.
Well, it wasn't as bad as I was anticipating.
It was worse.
Okay, I didn't think it was. I mean, it wasn't good.
I hated it so much.
I don't think it was the worst book I've ever read.
If I like mafia romance, will I be able to tolerate it?
It's not like intolerable. I can't even remember.
I don't even know what it's about, honestly. I just know my visceral reaction to it.
I'm trying to remember what was the thing besides the fact that he like didn't he stare at himself naked in the mirror? That's the one thing I retained.
He monologued. He monologued.
Oh, he did monologue naked in the mirror.
He was a monologuer. That was his foreplay. I hated him.
I think it was like it wasn't like he did any. I mean, he did some pretty bad stuff, but like we were kind of expecting that going
It wasn't
in.
even him. It was like the plot.
But it wasn't even, it wasn't really that so much as it was just like it's kind of like when we read Whitney, My Love. It wasn't the things that most people viscerally respond to that bothered us. It was the way that he was just constantly jumping to conclusions and ruining things for no reason. Like that was what bothered me rather than like, I didn't mind him spanking her. I was like, okay.
I mean, he spanked her in this one too.
He spanked her in this one, and I was like, honestly, she kind of deserved it.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, fair enough.
I'm like, she did just stab him.
And kill his poor horse whenever that happened. That was so sad to me. I was like,
so
no.
sad.
Guys, I highlighted a lot of things in this book, but the only thing I wrote a note on was I have in all caps. And it's like, you know how in the notes app, the first line is like the heading unless you change it. So it's in all caps and it's like bolded across the top of it. The only note I took is just the horse is Royce. Because
Can you explain?
I would love to explain. What if I was like, no?
No, that's it.
This episode.
I was like,
well,
this
hang
is
on,
my Lady Jane? Is she an animal?
Plot twist.
I would love that.
Judith McNaught was actually the blueprint for My Lady Jane. Actually, they have vibes.
Like, there's an argument there.
If you liked the show, sorry if you can hear that. That's my door buzzer. If you like that show, I feel like this is a good, like, as long as you know it's old school going in.
Yeah.
This is
to
a
me,
good,
I was
like,
if you like Shrek, it gave me like Shrek and Fiona, honestly. Noble Steed.
You're
like,
not. Yeah, honestly, like Royce. So our hero and heroine are Royce Westmoreland and Jennifer Merrick. And Jennifer is not a historical anachronism. I just want to point out that name does come from King Arthur. Like, I know it sounds like she should be living in the 80s, but Jenny is historically accurate for Tudor era England.
I mean, I feel like every like sweet little innocent maidservant is named Jenny. Did I just like make that up?
No.
Jenny, and then the older ones are all named Hannah. Sorry, Hannah.
They are. I'm a poor serving
It's
wench.
fair. I know what you mean. It sounds. It's one of those like.
It's like
you
Ashley,
know how. Yeah, but like in the
know?
Bible, like especially Old Testament, you get all those dudes with really weird long names, and then the women are like Sarah, and you're like, this doesn't. Like, why is he Nebariacus and she's Naomi? Like, why do they get the normal names? It gave me that where you think, is that? But no, I was on the same page as you.
Yeah. But Royce kind of looks, I could picture like hot Shrek, like when Shrek becomes human in Shrek 2.
I agree.
With like black hair.
You don't have to convince me. I'm already there.
No, but like I'm kind of processing this as a revelation. Like, actually, yes, human Shrek does fit, like if you just had darker hair.
I'm listening to this under protest. I didn't find human Shrek attractive.
Oh, well, that's a character flaw.
Okay, at the time, but I
think at the time I did. I don't know.
I don't think at the time. I think I thought most men that were supposed to be handsome in cartoons were actually ugly. I have since developed, like, my taste in men has become someone that I refer to as Pa, like Pa as in father, because he is basically a man who I would imagine would be able to be called Pa and it wouldn't be stupid. So like he's like strong, but not Jim strong. He's strong because he's like labors and
Royce
he
is
like
Pa.
Like Pa from Little House on the Prairie.
Can wear a beard. Yeah. He's Pa.
Yes.
And human Shrek, if he had a little scruff, could be a Pa. So could ogre Shrek.
I see no inaccuracies.
I don't know that you've quite gotten me over the hump of that last one, but I am with you up to that point.
Okay.
Pa
Royce is a Pa.
The dad from Little House on the Prairie is so hot. Also, his wife is named Caroline, so that might have imprinted on me. But like,
he was for a lot of our generation.
I didn't even watch the show that often, but sometimes I think about that scene where I don't remember what happened, but somebody did something to his wife, and he was like, "Oh, did this," and then he like ran out, and I was like, it was visceral.
Who did this to you?
Yeah. Oh, that show did something to me. Anyway, Royce is hot. Royce is
the daddy. And he's competent. He's so competent.
He's so competent. But he's also like,
even when he's so injured,
like so soft and tender, but everybody thinks he's so mean, but he's actually like
But Jenny's the only one who can see.
Yeah, and he kept remembering when she said that.
That's why he loves her.
Yeah.
It's like because she sees
My
the real
servants aren't
him.
making a cross every time they see me anymore.
It's my servants think I'm the literal devil, but Jenny sees that I'm more than just a big dick and like a sword.
Which, let's be real,
In
are the
addition
same
to big
thing.
dick
I guess same
and big
thing.
sword.
Yeah.
Big man.
Big
It's
man.
just a
He's
large man.
a large man. And he is, this goes back to the old school historical romance. He is like 30 and she is 17.
Yeah. But she thought he
It's
was older. I was
fine.
prepared for older.
She did think he was 35. And she
Mhm.
still thinks 30 is very old.
Mhm. Well, she thought that he was
Which
going to
is
be like old
hilarious.
and weathered and nasty, but then he shaved and she was like, oh, you're hot.
She's like, oh, fuck.
The classic historical, actually not even
Yeah.
historical romance, the classic romance hero
Mhm.
conundrum of, is he hot? Shave the
Or
beard?
is it
Yes,
just
he
the
is.
beard?
I
Mhm.
wouldn't need that. You know what I
Fair.
mean? Because like Pa
No.
has a
You're
beard.
the beard.
You're so right.
Mhm.
And I personally really love the microtrope where like he eats her out and then she has beard burn. And it's
Fair.
like a possessive
true.
thing where he's like, you're
Mhm.
gonna feel me tomorrow.
I'm with you.
Mhm.
Me too.
I don't, which is funny because in real life I don't really like beards. I can do, like, I like a little scruff.
I learned that you can get like infections from beards.
I feel like that's just if you just don't clean. If you
Well,
just-
yeah, I just feel like I don't trust men to be clean. So like
Oh.
they
Well,
can
see,
like if you
Pa
kiss
bathes
like but like
regularly.
Pa is not man.
Pa
Pa is
exfoliates.
Pa. But no, I heard that like if you like kiss a guy with like a beard, like you can get like cuts around your like microabrasion.
Oh, beard
and then you
burn.
can
Yeah.
but then like it can turn into like scary stuff. And I was like,
Oh.
oh. So that kind of turned me off a little bit.
Well, I like a
But-
little well-maintained scruff.
I
Yeah.
like the little. I want to
Well-maintained
emphasize
is-
Pa does not have like a Duck Dynasty beard. Like it can
Of
be a
course
little
not.
bit longer. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be
Yes.
like so short, but like
I'm with you.
Pa could be a politician.
I'm
Pa
following.
could be a
It-
politician.
Pa wouldn't be yeah, politician. He wouldn't
Mhm.
be, but he had the beard is acceptable for the Senate floor.
I feel like I have an image in my head that's not Charles from Little House on the Charles Angle, but like because he doesn't have a beard, although he could and it would be hot. Maybe he did at one point. I don't know. There's like an image
I'm
in
sure
my
there's one
head.
point like in a winter.
I've got Harry
where
I'm
they're,
gonna
Connick
like,
Google
in
it
my head.
right now. Who?
we
There's
could
a-
also yeah.
There's like a Harry Connick Jr. I think he had a beard in that.
I just like there's
Henry
somebody
Cavill
in my
in that
head.
beginning in that scene in Superman where he comes out of the
Mhm.
ocean.
Well, it turns out the real Charles Angles. Am I thinking of
Was also
Wilder?
a daddy?
No, he just did have a beard though, but he's not attractive.
Oh.
Anyway,
Should we fan cast? Wait, should we fan cast Jenny and Royce?
he does have a beard at one point, and he looks so good
Ooh.
doing it. I know.
I can get on board,
man.
Pa.
Oh my God.
I do
Yeah.
enjoy that man.
See, I
Listener,
told you
right
this man had
now.
a beard.
Right now, look up Pa from Little House on the Prairie with a beard.
Specifically, you do have to, because he was a real guy, and real pictures of Charles Ingalls will show up, and he was not an
Yes.
attractive man. But if you search Charles Ingalls TV show beard, you will get some images.
Perfect. Perfect.
And I'm backtracking. Should we overview the plot for
Yeah.
people who maybe haven't
This
reread
is a
recently?
this is a tangent podcast.
Oh,
Same.
Don't worry.
Oh, we
We've-
are well accustomed.
We're the worst.
Yeah. Don't
I
worry.
do try to occasionally be like, wait, what are we doing? But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
rare.
And then we get back onto the tangent.
It
Like,
yeah.
rather
Yeah.
back on track, it's just back on tangent. Like,
It's
Yeah.
fine. We're women. We yap.
ours take F1 tangents.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do
no.
take F1 tangents. That's true.
I
would-
do
yeah.
want to ask you if you have any F1 romances that you like, because I just tried to read a galley of one. I was taken in by the cover, and that was my first mistake.
Forever has nothing but banger covers. We haven't put out a bad cover in a hot minute.
I am sad that you did switch to now that I have you captive, that you did switch to a cartoon for Erica Ridley's The Wild Winchesters.
See, my argument with that is that actually the vibes of the series, it would have made sense for the entire thing to have been illustrated.
That was my only thing. If it had been cartoon the whole time, but like the third book especially, I was like, this cover's so hot and I wanted more of this.
The third cover, and I love the first cover.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the plus side with the Winchesters is that we always republish trade paper in mass market like a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the My Road to Ruin has a mass market clinch. I think it might be just a woman on the front. I can't remember.
She's blonde and he's there too, I think.
He's
He's there
there.
too. I mean, I feel like a lot of times that
Yeah.
is the man.
Yeah.
Like he's
It
there.
might-
His
I can't
shirt's
remember.
off.
Yeah, because I can picture her face, but I could not tell you if there's a man on the cover.
I'm looking
Um,
now.
Why is a man there?
Why would a man be there?
Yeah, he's there. See there, he's a man.
You're so correct. There is a man
Oh,
there.
there he is.
Yeah.
So, like, at least because they switched to trade paper, you have to wait a year, but it will at
Mhm.
least, like,
Yeah. I do get that, like, I have seen this, but a lot of like the newer romance readers like really are against like the people, like real people on covers.
yeah, they're my enemies.
And I'm like, first of all, you're reading an ebook probably, so like the cover's not there. Second of all, stop being a baby.
Is this what, Hannah, you have the physical copy of I'm Coming Back to a Kingdom of Dreams. See, we loop around eventually. Do you have a
Nope.
physical copy?
I do have the step back. Let me go
Yeah.
see if I can get it.
Please share.
Oh yes, I want to see a step back.
I tried to find, like, when I save book covers for my, like, wrap up on my Instagram stories and whatever,
Mhm.
I try to find, like, my favorite cover, and this one just doesn't have, like,
He's kind of giving Cary Grant.
oh, wait, I need it.
Wait, he is. That's
That's
Yeah.
not exactly how I pictured him, but he's hot, so I'm not mad
No,
about
yeah,
it.
it's a really
Wait,
pretty
can I see the
one.
cover?
Jenny looks like she's wearing a wig, and I don't love that, but
See, that's probably the best cover I've seen.
she's holding that. There's at one point he gives her his mom's jewelry box with
Mhm.
like the only thing left of his mom. And so it looks like it's like a woman holding that on the cover. That looks like the original. Is that like the original
That's
cover?
the original. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like, that's got like the embossed Judith McNaught in the like 80s font.
And this one looks, is this like what kind of flower? An orchid or something?
Calla lily.
Calla lily.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do those have any relevance to those books?
They are used for funerals
Oh, well.
and are also sometimes included in the list of flowers that look like pussies.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I can see that.
I know a weird thing about that because I named a fan fiction character Calla after the Calla lilies, so I have like this weird background knowledge about that specific flower.
Good. I don't think they show up in the book at all, though.
But they even have the
No.
horse on the cover, but he's not like black. He's like sworn to be enemies, bound by a scorching passion.
Let's put a flower on there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's like all those old school that were like the step backs are taken away. Like they're all just like random.
I hadn't seen that one, but there were a few that it was like kind of that plain yellow background and then just like a woman sort of down in the corner, and then there was one that was kind of also that plain, but it did have like the jeweled box.
The most recent one is pretty good compared to what they've rejacketed some things as. Like this one's because it's the style of like all her, like the whole series was given new ones, and they're all pretty good. Oh yeah, there are a lot. This one is wild.
I mean, it's like one of the most popular of all time. I can imagine like every 2 years they're like, "Hey guys, want to
But there's
rejacket
no
Kingdom of
audiobook.
Dreams?"
Like
Yeah,
what?
where's
Yes,
the audiobook?
there's no audiobook.
Where is the audiobook? It would go so hard.
And I thought, listen, I know pirating books is bad, but I was like looking at the ebook. I was like, this is 600 pages. I'm not an eyeball reader most of the
600?
time. Can I find the audiobook? The audiobook's not on any of my library. My ebook was probably because I was reading on my phone too. So it was like 4 pages.
Oh my
But
gosh. I would have tapped. I would have been like, I'm sorry, I can't do this.
this is like a fantasy book.
Yeah, I've been like, I'm so sorry. I
I
respectfully
think most of
decline.
them are like 460.
This was 430.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's still chunky.
Yeah.
But I tried to find like an audiobook anywhere online, and like I found what I thought, and it was like
YouTube?
this like YouTube, but
I
it was
heard
like an
that.
AI
I
voice.
listened because I thought it was horrible.
Yeah.
I was like, I will retain nothing of this and also hate it.
I was like that. I was like, when I edit, and so I do like freelance editing now, I sometimes have Microsoft Word like read it out to me. And I was like, Microsoft Word's person does a better job than whatever this AI.
I listened to Gaywick, so I had the Kindle book, and then you could do like the like Kindle can read it to you for the adaptability and stuff, but like
I did the same thing.
it wasn't horrible. You lose
Yeah.
some. I read half of it, so like I would like be working listening to it, so I could like because it was very long, so I like broke up my time, and I think I could have probably finished with the audiobook on this if I would have wanted to. Just because like once I got into it, like I knew what was happening, I couldn't really start. like the book and have no, because I would not retain anything. But then I was reading, I was like, no, this is great.
Yeah, once I like got into it, even like I stayed up until like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
this
Real.
morning, and then I was
I had
reading it
to. I had
today.
to read till 3 a.m. because I didn't start it before yesterday. So I was like, I have to
Fair enough.
do what I must. Felt like
I
was
have
reading
found the best cover.
Ooh, which
It
one?
is
Okay, wait, let's
the
see.
Spanish edition from
Oh.
2000, and it goes
Oh,
crazy.
oh my God. I was not prepared, actually.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, the glare is like not doing it justice.
No,
but,
I
like,
see.
Oh, no, I see it now. Whoa.
Oh.
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, she's fully naked. His arm is the sheet. I love that. He's holding something. Don't know what it is. This is awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, the 2000 Spanish edition. Un reino
Slay.
de ensueño. I can't speak Spanish, guys. I'm so sorry. Un reino de un sueño is as
Yeah.
close as we're gonna get.
I'm assuming that translates to a kingdom of dreams. And if it doesn't, nobody
Yeah.
tell me. We have some Spanish listeners. I don't want to know what it means.
I don't know, but that cover, it doesn't matter. You could put anything. Anyway, A Kingdom
Yeah.
of Dreams.
This was also a listener suggestion, I wanted to say.
Oh,
Forgot
really?
to say.
Good.
We had a listener request for this. And I was like, good, you have good taste.
Yeah, I was gonna add, you haven't read this before either.
I had.
Oh,
I
you
read
had?
it before.
Okay.
I read it. Yeah. Yeah, I read it like 2 years ago now, I think.
Okay. Because you said you were like, this is one of my favorites of all time. And I was
Yeah,
like,
I was
me
like,
too.
well, that
But you
was-
said it with confidence,
Yeah.
as in it had been.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, rereading
Okay.
it, like I like it even more. Like I
Yeah.
for the last like 150 pages was like giggling and kicking my
I
feet
loved the end.
entire
I was
time.
so scared. I was so scared to read it. One, because people had told me that they did not like Jenny, and now after reading it, I'm
They're
like, what do you
wrong.
mean? I'm like,
That's
what
literally,
you
I've been
say.
warned. I've been warned that the hero was great, but that they hate the heroine. And I don't know, like
That's
they're like the
insane.
Taming of the Shrew Part 2. Like what?
I
And
saw
then-
that review.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we've talked about Caroline and I have talked about
New
this before,
enemies
like,
have been acquired.
yeah, new enemies. Because after I read it, I was like, what book did they read? I was like,
Jenny's
literally, what book did they read?
amazing.
Like I was so confused. So like I was
She actually could have
apprehensive.
been worse, and I still would
I
have
know.
supported her.
I
And
know.
literally, like taking it the Taming of the Shrew, like part of their relationship is him very like specifically being like, I do not want to break her spirit. I
Yes.
love that she is like so insane. Like
Yeah.
this is wonderful.
Well, the first time he notices how like actually beautiful she is when she
Yeah.
like stabs him in the face with his own
Yeah.
dagger. Like she whips around and comes at him with a dagger, and he's like, "Oh, that's the hottest woman I've ever seen." Actually,
Her skin like
pauses-
eggs and her wet velvet eyes.
they pause in the middle of a sex
Yeah.
scene for him to like wax
You're so
poetic to
yeah.
himself about how everybody else wants him to like. All these other women were like, "Oh, hurt me, use me, like
Mhm.
whatever," and
Yeah.
she doesn't, and he's like, "Oh, that's hot."
He was so gone. So I was so confused
They're
on that
wrong.
vein.
People don't know how to read sometimes.
People they
No.
don't write. That's one of my problems with like
Yeah.
modern historical romance. They don't write heroines like that. And I'm not talking about like
No.
we have badass heroines. We have like
It's-
take
it's
no
in a-
prisoners
it's-
like
they're
Ginny.
safely badass. Like it's safely contained.
There's an element of insanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I
I
love
would
the
argue that
insanity.
like Jessica Trent in Lord of Scoundrels,
Yes.
like I
Yeah.
feel like
She's
she was like
insane.
one of the
Yeah.
last.
Yes.
And you know what they both have in common? They both violently injure
Yeah.
their love
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah.
And he
Good.
That's
is
my
more
kink.
turned on by that.
There's a scene in this where it's gonna come up later in the cat scale, but when she's like flailing around, she's got like a sheet or something on her, and she's like, I took a picture of it because I was reading this physically, but now I can't find it. Where she was just, oh yeah, okay, nope, wrong one. There were so many parts of this book that I wanted.
Is
to
it when she's
photograph, but-
wearing the robe there at his
Yeah.
castle and she's wearing like an oversized robe because
Oh,
it was like it
yeah.
belonged to somebody else and so it's like huge on her and she
Yeah.
almost catches it on fire.
Oh yeah, he's like, you're
That
standing
was
in front of the
funny.
fire. And she's like, I'm cold. And he's like, you're gonna be a flame in 2 seconds.
It's giving Little Women 2019? Where he's like, you're on fire. And she's like, yeah, I know. She's like writing really hard. And he's like, no, you're on fire.
Oh,
Like the back of her dress had caught fire.
Okay,
I love
so
it.
Jenny surged clumsily to her feet, her arms flailing at the cloak, looking looking like an enraged ghost trying to fling off its shroud. And the moment it fell away, Jenny doubled up her fist and swung with all her might at the dark, demonic, shadowy giant before her striking him on the jawbone. So it was right before she like punched him and called him a monster and a barbarian.
Sure.
But she was just like very like, I don't know, like caught in her clothes, and I love the like visual of that because there's a scene, and I read a recent, I don't know who the author is, but it was like a road trip book, and it was really good. But the heroine just had a scene where she just got so angry, she just like started screaming and flinging herself around on the ground and just kind of like having like a tantrum for a little bit, and then she just kind of laid there and then kind of got out of her system, and they just went about their day. I love
it
when they can just kind of let the crazy flag fly a little bit.
We're all a little bit crazy.
Exactly.
I want to read about it.
a little bit feral, like just a little bit
She's
feral.
a little
That's
feral.
also
Jenny is a
the
lot
cat
feral.
scale is a feral cat.
Well, she's also literally backed into like she's been kidnapped, and like she is literally locked in a tent. Like, if anyone has an excuse to be feral, it's this woman who's been kidnapped by.
And he understands that. That's the whole point of his thing at the end, is that he's like, oh yeah, if you wouldn't have just been walking on the hill and my stupid brother kidnapped you, this wouldn't have happened. Like, you wouldn't.
She's like, what would you do if this happened to your daughter? And he's like, oh fuck.
Scene.
Yeah. He's like, fuck.
Yeah.
You're right.
She's like, no, your daughter taken by your enemy. What do you want her to do?
Yep.
And he's like,
oh no. Well, he has a lot of turning points.
He has a lot. He's just turning in circles.
It's one of my favorite thing, which I feel like modern when I talk about things that modern writers aren't doing in the same way, I lay almost all of the blame for that at readers' feet, actually, because I think they know that they can't get away with a lot of things anymore. That not even get away with. They can't take risks in their writing in the same way without
comprehension is down.
Yes, but like without and also the way that people think that or treat romance like
everything
morality
has to be
manual,
black or white, or like everyone has to start perfect and end perfect, and it's just
if you do anything outside of that, well, then you're a bad person and you're canceled. And it's like, well, but you look at the context of what you're reading, please, I beg of you. So when I say like writers aren't doing this anymore, number one, I'm sure someone somewhere is, and number two, I don't blame the writers. But I think it's so hard to find a non-linear romance anymore. Like, so much of it, and like especially with the like hatred of the third act breakup and everything, it's so like you start, even if it's enemies to lovers, like you start hating each other, and then very quickly it's like, oh wait, we don't actually hate each other, and then it like progresses kind of straightforward to the end, and they both have this very simple character arc of like, and then they get better.
The sex scene,
like they're not enemies.
Well, yes, but like maybe there's like you get a good third act, which I like, a well-constructed third act breakup or conflict of some kind, and they separate and they come back. So like you get a little bit of that, but the way that they were constantly like taking down walls and then rebuilding the walls because they'll betray each other's trust, but like the wall is already cracked, so it comes down a little bit easier the next time, and then the other one will do something. Like it's constantly back and forth, and oh shit, we started at 50%. We start at the wedding that you don't actually get to until halfway through the book. And they hate each other.
Yeah. So you're like, what the fuck?
And so it's like, I love, like, what Whitney, my love, didn't do is, like, have them jump to conclusions and not be able to see the truth until, like, the last page, you know? Like, here, they jumped to some conclusions, or, like, things were misled, and, you know, he thought that she was a part of, like, all of the different plots to escape.
They have, like, reasonable, like...
Yeah.
But then they're also reasonably, like, oh, actually...
Yeah, they communicate.
And then, it was
I was surprised every single time, and she did it over and over again, and I was still surprised every time because I kept waiting for the big misunderstanding that is going to be the thing that he, like, he shuts her down and he treats her really horribly, and now she's stuck with him as his wife, and he's going to be awful to her because it's an old school historical and they love to do that. And it just, like, literally never, every single time I was seeing that coming, very quickly within the next like chapter, it would be like, oh wait, actually I was wrong and I regret my decision.
Yeah, that they got married at like 50% and that you already knew that they were going to get, like, I think there was just so much more time. Like, it didn't feel rushed or forced, and they were given time to be angry, but to also make up, and then to be angry again, and then to like really feel like by the end that they loved each other and that they've been through everything, but like nothing made it seem like they would break up. Whereas sometimes, like, Whitney, my love, like, That man, I'm not convinced that if he was confronted with another thing he thought she did, that he wouldn't just fly off the handle again. And she needed like 50 more
stay
pages.
broken up.
Yeah, like she needed like
Yeah.
50 more pages to convince me. Like at the end of that one, this one, they did so much of the work.
Oh yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
right on page, and it was awesome.
And I loved at the beginning because she like starts at the wedding and then goes back. Like it felt very like early 2000s teen comedy where it's like record scratch. Yep, that's
Yep.
me. I bet you're wondering how I ended up in this position. Except it's
Yep.
like Jenny talking to God. I love that God was a
Oh
character.
my God.
I love that God was a
that.
character. It was
And then
hilarious.
she's like, "Oh, well, I pray every night." Scratch that. Most nights.
The first
God's like,
highlight I
Jenny,
made was
tell the
not
truth.
always Jennifer God Thunder.
And then the way it comes back on like the last page.
Oh my
Sobbing.
God.
Yeah, with
Sobbing.
Royce, who's like not religious,
Crying.
and they both thank God for each other.
Yeah, no, actually don't speak to me ever again.
No.
And the podcast now, because Royce going from I don't believe in God to why do you believe in God, essentially, to wait, maybe God is real, but the
Yeah.
only thing that proves it is this woman in my life.
Yeah. And then him going to the chapel when she was pregnant and he was worried that she
Oh
was
my
going to
God.
die. That also killed me.
I love a
The
pregnant
epilogue of this
like
was so
birth
good.
scene
I know.
where they don't know if she's gonna live through the birth, and he's
I
so
know.
stressed about it.
He was so stressed.
And Aunt Eleanor is like, don't worry, her mom died in childbirth, but that doesn't matter.
She's so
I love
unhinged
Aunt
for that.
Eleanor. I
Oh,
know.
best character in the book.
Yeah,
Best
and then I
character.
loved Brenna. I'll give her some flowers when when Jenny was like, "I'll be like Joan of Arc," and then Brenna was like, "No, you'll actually suffer much worse than she will." As like a good thing, like you'll be a great martyr. She's like, "Oh, that didn't make me feel better, but thank you." I just love that. Like, obviously, I loved that her first horrible stepbrother was already killed. That was great for me.
Excellent.
Love that.
Something that you should know about Hannah is, listeners and Allison, is that she needs not just justice, but like
Yeah.
vengeance to be
Yes.
carried out. Because if
agree.
it isn't, she'll like lower her rating and hate
Hannah
him.
and I
Yeah.
are the same.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hannah and I are
good. So
kindred
you'll
spirits.
understand.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more flexible. She is.
I don't need them to die, but I need them to be punished.
Suffer. Yeah. So like I just know that a lot in these old school books, it's always the stepbrothers. They always have weird incestuous-esque fantasy. So like I had that in my brain when like you hear that she's got terrible stepbrother. I was like, oh God. But then he was dead. That was great. She still had one younger one. I was like, eh. But I was so happy that her stepsister was nice, and then I loved their relationship.
Well, all the women.
Yeah.
Yes.
The female
There
friend,
were
there
no
wasn't, like,
evil women.
competition.
You're so right.
Yeah.
I really liked
I mean,
that.
there were like a couple of courtiers that weren't great, but that was more just like all of the people
Mhm.
of that social
They're just like
class were
background
like
characters. Yeah.
tee kind of
Mhm.
whatever, but like the men, and specifically only her family really, and like the
Mhm.
steward or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, he was kind of a vague, like, we didn't like him, but nothing really. I thought something was going to happen with him. I thought he was going to, like, try to
Yeah,
murder
there was going to
them.
be a reason that he really. Well, because usually in these,
Yeah.
especially like these medieval romances, like
Mhm.
she gets kidnapped at some point, and there's
Yep.
always like a servant who hasn't liked her the whole time that
Yep.
like helps them get her get
Yeah.
kidnapped, and
And
so
it wasn't. It subverted a lot of things that I was expecting.
yeah,
Which kept me interested for, like, the 400 and some pages that it was.
Yeah.
And I
To
read
be
it
fair,
super
we
fast.
not started, but basically started with her getting kidnapped. So it's like, well,
Yeah.
we're hit the ground running.
we're already doing it. She's already been kidnapped. And his immediate response is, I can't believe you fucking took some nuns.
Yeah.
You can't be taking nuns.
And his brother's like, technically they weren't in the abbey, so it's fine.
And he's like, but they're still nuns.
All right, wait, let's give an overview. I feel like we're talking.
Yes.
So basically,
I'm not
it's
one for this. I will tangent.
it's
so I'm just gonna shut my mouth.
medieval. It's like Tudor era Henry VII, which actually the time that I read this now, I now know more. Like I've like watched more like Tudor era media, like I know more. So I was like, oh, I know who the Henry that they're talking about, and like Perkin Warbeck, and like I actually understand what's going on. So just as an aside, yeah. So it's Jenny is Scottish, Royce is English. They obviously hate each other. I did feel a little bit awkward about the fact that the English were kind of more the good guys.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know, Scotland really has some reasons to hate the English. But
I
Royce is
felt
daddy.
similarly at the end.
I was
I was
like,
like-
I'll take it.
I was like, am I rooting for the English?
God,
Guys,
like,
it's
God damn it.
fine. Don't
Yeah.
worry. It's fine.
Jenny has a bunch of daddy issues, like severe dad. It was actually really sad. Like I feel like daddy issues really makes it seem like
But
it
then I
wasn't
loved.
like
Okay, I'm getting ahead of
yeah.
myself.
She has a lot of dad because her dad's basically an asshole who like only uses her and she just wants people to love her the way she loves them, and all of her clan are a bunch of dicks. And Royce is a really fierce warrior and he has a sweet castle, like a real sweet castle. Because he's fighting so much. And yeah, there's just a lot of kidnappings and then they're forced to marry and then they fall in love at the end.
What an overview.
I don't normally do this, but this book is so long.
You can't.
Like, I was like, I feel like I have to give. And okay, so wait, character name. Sorry. Stefan which is my brother's name, so that was a little weird. Is Royce's brother. Brenna is Jenny's stepsister. And then Alexander and Malcolm are her dickhead stepbrothers, and William is her nice stepbrother.
Rip
I feel like that's all and then Aunt Eleanor is Jenny's
Eric.
great aunt.
Eric.
Oh, and then Eric spelled with an A.
Yes.
Okay.
An icon, a legend, a tree trunk.
His poor digestive system.
I was really hoping him and Aunt Eleanor were gonna like be a couple.
I thought they were gonna like kind of get freaky a little bit.
Oh my God,
maybe no, they have,
I was not on the
it's just
same
not
page
important
as
to Jenny's story, so it's not on page.
I thought that she was like a sweet, like old lady who is like kind of a mother figure.
I just didn't
to
know
him.
his age. I was like, are they?
Oh, I read him as like same age as Royce.
Well, that's the thing. It's like he's in his 30s, and I was imagining her in her 50s. So I was imagining it was like a silver, because that's the thing. They're like, oh, she's so old, but like they call Jenny old, and Jenny's 17.
That is very true.
So I was like, Aunt Eleanor was probably also 17. So there's probably like 30 years, like 30, 35 years between her and Eleanor. So like,
yeah, because she was like, he was probably going to be ancient, 40.
Yeah,
30 or 40.
40.
That was really funny. He'll be so ancient.
So I was imagining like a cougar situation, like older woman, hot young man.
She read she read to me as not like somebody who couldn't get it if she wanted to. I think she just did not want to.
Yeah.
Like she had no interest whatsoever. That's why she had the fucking powder.
Yeah.
That like what's the impetus?
Impotizes.
Freaking
so funny. He's like, get that powder away from me. That was
get
so
that
funny.
out of my castle. Get it out of my daily. I want it anywhere in the
And she's like, yeah, King, I didn't think you would. Like, that was so funny. Oh,
I mean, any scene that she's in instantly improved.
And no one ships Royce and Jenny more than Aunt Eleanor.
No.
Like, number
one.
But
I feel like she's such a that's such a like archetypal character of like this, the older woman who's kind of along, and she's like a doddering and meddling and eccentric, and you think that she's very stupid, but it turns out she's very insightful and she's paying attention the entire time. Like, but I find that so many of those characters are also annoying and intentionally
very
so, and they're
like,
not
corny.
supposed to. Not even that. I mean, like intentionally, you're not supposed to like them, or like they're in the way.
Yeah, they like meddle in a way that you're like, just go away. Like,
why are you here? If they're there to cause problems, or if they're not, they aren't just not written well, and you're like, this is an annoying character. But at no point, I was just delighted by her in every scene that she was in. I was like, oh, you're an asset to this, actually.
I was so happy that they brought her with, because like you felt, because obviously her dad's a dick, and so you're like, you don't want her to have to stay back. She seemed so happy to see Jenny. And then for her to be like, okay, either I'm going to scream or you're taking me with you. I was like, yes.
Icon.
She scams her way in. She's like, I'm going with the hot ones. Yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not going back to like the dower house.
And then how she got control of the kitchen. Like, I just love that she found her little face or space and like found family too. Cause she was like sent away because she talked too much by her brother,
her nephew.
Father.
At one point, she calls Jenny's dad her nephew. I thought they were siblings, but yeah. So I think like her, because it said that she used to run like a castle. So I think she was like the laird's
so she's
wife.
Probably like a great aunt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I think she was like the previous laird's wife, and then like Jenny's dad inherited because he was the
and so he sent her off to the dower house.
Yeah. And I felt so bad for her. I was like, oh, like no human contact. But then she got the kitchens, and then they were just like food.
And then also, like, she's never with the men. Like, she's the butt of the joke in the sense that sometimes they are laughing at something that she's saying without realizing that it's bad, but they're never like really making fun of her.
Yeah.
They are always making fun, usually of Eric, because of the things that
Mhm.
she's saying, and they
Yeah.
will like
Yeah.
bully him, but then also immediately come to her defense, like when Eric didn't eat the stew that she made specifically for him.
Yeah.
And as soon as she leaves, they're like, "Bro, why didn't you taste the stew? She
Come
made
on."
it for you." And they're like mad at him about it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Like you're
Yep.
giving frat boy, but
Is this
like
feminism?
lovable frat
Which was
boy.
also like, I loved those side characters, and again, we didn't get one that was trying to kill them. You know, like
No.
there wasn't like
Yeah.
infiltrating, like
betrayal.
which
They
was
were
just
just
so
a delight.
fun.
They really were giving like himbo frat guys.
Yes, and I loved it.
They're all himbos. Oh, I love
Mhm.
them.
I loved that.
Nothing but sheer delight out of the
Mhm.
Knights of the Black Wolf.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. They're all
Which
great.
is so rare with a cast of men.
And I was so happy that Stefan and her sister, we didn't really get much. They said that they were going to marry, and then we saw Stefan at the end in the epilogue, but we didn't really see Brenna, did we? Unless I read it, like skipped over that.
No.
I was like, are they happily married? Like, what's going on here?
Well, Brenna's been disinherited, so
Well,
he
because
better
that's why I
fucking
assumed.
marry
So I was
her.
like, she was disinherited and
I
like
think it's
disowned, so they were
implied
married.
that
I
they
just wanted to
get
like
married.
see a little bit more. I was
It's
like,
just interesting she wasn't there. You would think that she would like
Yeah.
also go up to the birthing room, that like
Mhm.
she'd be there. I think it's more just like they forgot about her. Like
Which is
Judith
just-
McNaught
I'm
just
just,
like
like-
forgot.
I'm like, where is she? She was
Where's
such an
Brenna?
important part. Freaking Feather Queen.
She's having an asthma attack, so
Yeah.
like she's
Yeah.
recovering off somewhere.
And I was rooting for them. I was like, they're gonna fall in love. And they
Yeah.
did.
They did.
Well, of course they did. Which is hilarious because he definitely was the one who kidnapped them in the first place.
Yep.
Oh,
like
he
you can kind
was.
of excuse Royce because he like, I mean, obviously he went on to
Yeah.
do some things. But like at least initially, he's not the one who kidnapped him. He's kind of like, why'd you take these nuns? Now I have this problem to solve. Damn.
And
Mhm.
Seven's like, but Royce.
Yep.
Like I did not think he was going to be a good guy at the start of this
No.
book. It's hard to be a good guy when you're kidnapping novices.
So true.
But like it's also kind of hot.
It is kind of hot, I
You know,
fear.
it was.
He kind of
Throw 'em
ate
over your
that.
shoulder.
Actually, the hottest thing Stefan did in that entire book was lay into Jenny at the end.
It
Yeah.
was so great.
When he showed up and was like, get your ass out there right
Yep.
now because my brother is killing himself for you.
Yep.
Yeah. He's like, he's dying. Like, my brother promised not to kill your family, and your family is fucking him up.
That's the only time I was just a smidge annoyed with Jenny because like I loved her throughout. I was just like, quick, because she didn't, and it wasn't even her fault, but she literally like shielded her eyes so she didn't see her brother like stab him in the neck. I was like, oh my God.
I was like, how is he not dead? Okay.
Like, what do you mean? Like between
you
the
can't kill him.
shoulder-
Carotid?
Yeah. Well, and also they like slash his thigh.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what you bleed out. Like,
Yeah.
But the power of love stitched his wounds back
that's
together.
so true.
Yeah.
Stitched them back together so well.
Huey Lewis,
and
he-
Eleanor's tonics or whatever, tinctures.
Yeah.
And he
It
just
got
got no
him
pain.
back
He's like,
up
am I
on the
dead?
horse.
No.
And continued to win jousts after this.
So maybe it wasn't even like annoyed at her. I was just like, okay, one more thing that she hasn't seen, so she won't know. But then it was handled in such a good way of him being like, yo, like you ran away, but you got to come back because he's
Yeah.
literally killing himself for you. And then she didn't stop to
Yeah.
question it. Like she didn't. And I loved that.
They both grand gestured each other,
Yes.
which was really cute
Yes.
because usually you only get the one.
Because I clocked the fact that they were talking about what's the thing that they were at a tournament. They talked about the tournaments a little bit earlier on and like at the beginning of the book, and I was like, is she gonna like go in like Knights whatever like
Yeah.
and like be in this thing and like have her Lord of the Rings moment? I am no man.
Well,
that
because we
didn't
have the
happen.
precedence of her jousting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was like,
But
is she
she
gonna
had
do
to
that
learn
again?
her place.
Exactly. And then he was telling the story of like
To be fair, her place is equal to her super powerful Duke husband.
Yes.
To be
Oh.
clear.
Yeah. Hey, her super powerful Duke husband had to get an extra title because she outranked
Yep.
him. 'Cause
I
she's a
loved
Dutch-
that.
she's
Well,
a
but also
countess.
he made it. He was like,
Yeah.
if she is speaking with my authority,
Mhm.
like hottest thing I've ever read, possibly. By the
love
way,
it.
that moment.
Yeah. Well, because
Yeah.
then there was a scene where someone was talking about how like a knight like went around professing his love and like challenging people. So like you would go to the castle, be like, she's the fairest of them all. Challenge me if you don't
Yeah.
think so. And then the other knights would have to come and be like, no, but my lady's the fairest. So I
Yeah.
thought that was maybe going to happen, but however it happened was awesome. So I was like
No.
in the right vicinity but almost killing himself was great.
And then wait, her jousting and like the way she wins her joust against her brother when she's telling that story, she's like, I flipped up the visor and stuck my tongue out at him. But then at the end, when she's like, you gotta go joust, and he's like, remind me how you won that, and she's like, she's like kissing him, she's like this, and then she adds tongue. I was like, Jenny, you were a virgin at the beginning, but Jenny,
I've underestimated your game.
Like,
I was unfamiliar with
your game.
Real recognizes real with Jenny.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. And then she's like, yeah, do you feel like you can go with one arm? He's like, yeah, I got this.
He's like, oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I loved the ending so much.
I clocked most of it. I feel like so I got the like she hadn't cried the entire book, and that was very clearly gonna be the like she has to cry.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew he was gonna be near death when she was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
She did cry before the night before the tournament, though. They have like one last like he's like, can you forgive me? Because I did note that she like sobs on the bed. He leaves and she's like sobs on the bed.
I thought she did. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and revisit then. That's interesting. Because I missed
there were moments where she was like weepy and like
they talk about like tears shimmering in her eyes or tears blurring her vision,
like unshed tears.
Yeah.
And maybe I thought she was definitely like like she like couldn't stand. Like I thought she was crying.
I don't know. Well, regardless, the first time she cries in front of people.
Yeah.
It had to be when he was near death, because if her brother's death wasn't going to do it, it was going to have to be him.
Well, it was just so good because like
I did not clock. And I also clocked that he wouldn't fight back, and so obviously it was going to be her family that got him to that state.
Yep.
I did not clock her kneeling. That was the thing that got me, where I was like, this is the best thing I've ever read in my entire life.
Yeah. Well, because I was a little miffed, as we I guess should have been, about her sitting on her family side, just because we knew that her father was
miffed.
Like,
I was a real miffed.
I was like, from her perspective, I get it. Like, she really still had faith in her dickhole father.
So bad.
He wanted
and Royce
so bad.
did kill her brother.
He did.
He was
the nice brother.
But
I was sad about that.
But he did it because of his PTSD. Because he just
Which is why I was thinking about that Achilles in Vietnam book when I was reading. Because so much of it is him being like, I'm done with war. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done. I've built this castle that not even I could reach.
I get to
and
retire.
I want to just like chill. And he doesn't know how to.
Well, and then they were saying that because he was still expecting bringing her back like every night for them to get besieged by the Merrick clan too. So that was another. Yeah. So I was sad about William, but then she also killed his horse, which is it a fair comparison? Maybe not. But honestly, Thor.
But she killed his horse because she was being stupid. But also
that
she was
so
trying to
sad.
run away.
And then, but then knowing that the horse like bucked her off to say, I was like, oh my god.
Which brings us back to my one and only note from this book, which is Royce. The horse is Royce. Because you have, you have this giant, black, terrifying war horse who is renowned for its prowess and for its loyalty and for its strength in battle, right? Smart. And no one touches this horse except for Royce. Like, he's unwritable. He is the ultimate war horse. Okay. So then she steals this horse. She's, of course, the only person other than him to have ever ridden this horse. And the horse seems super cool with it. He's like, you know what?
The horse is like, this is great.
Yes. They gallop away. And then you get to the scene from Royce's POV initially, where the horse senses danger and shies away and won't jump. And Royce goes, oh, he knows that there's a cliff on the other side of that. And she forces him over in anyway. And he bucks her off and kills himself to save her and to do her bidding. Well, he kills himself, saves her in the process, but specifically he kills himself to do what she was asking him to do.
Which is like the art of courtly
and then
love.
You get to the end where he is letting himself be killed because she asked him not to hurt her family. And I was like, oh my god,
you're right.
The horse is Royce. The horse is he's this huge, terrifying, war crazed, no, I know the horse isn't crazed, but like loyal to a fault beast who everyone assumes is terrible and terrifying and scary, who only Jenny can touch, and who mourns the horse. And he will buck Jenny off of him and take himself over a cliff because she asked him to.
And the most like compelling thing that she'd ever said to him was that she was sorry. for killing his horse. He was like, oh, I didn't realize I wanted that so badly.
Yeah, in a way that nobody else would have felt the death of that horse.
Yeah.
Guys, the horse is Royce.
I am so glad you pointed out this parallel because I'm Judith McNaught. Everyone.
She's a great writer.
It's possibly a perfect romance.
They don't make them like that anymore.
They really don't. Because if you had given me a romance written today that was 460, 430, whatever it is, pages,
I would
no
not
audiobook, and it's a medieval, I would be, I mean, and I love an old school medieval, to be clear, but like, I would be like, guys, I'm not reading more than 300 pages.
Too. Like, a lot of times I struggle with, if it's Highlander, like I really struggle with like the way they write out like some of the Scottish like burr and stuff. Like I prefer audiobooks for that. Sometimes in like medieval, all the different like abbreviations and like apostrophizations or whatever, like that gets like it slows down my reading, which I don't enjoy. But this one felt very like from the beginning funny and accessible.
Yeah, it was so funny.
Yeah, it was and so just funny. Oh my God.
Like you can't help but love them both, which apparently people didn't love Jenny, which again is just wrong. It's just wrong.
Yeah, that's her kingdom of dreams. Her kingdom of dreams is a place where the people that she loves love her too.
Bro, like, the ending of the book, the last line, weeping.
Yeah, I know. Like the last, like, again, because she wrote this after Whitney, My Love, which I find fascinating too.
Yeah, because this is the backstory. This is like Whitney, My Love's ancestors.
People were like asking for more, and she's like, actually, I'll do one better rather than a sequel. I'll give you their ancestors, which I just thought was so fun. So maybe somewhere she was like, I'll make them suffer, but I won't make the readers suffer so much right at the end. Those last 50 pages of Whitney, My Love really scarred me. And then Until You, have you read Until You?
I haven't.
No. Isn't that's like the sequel? It's like
so it's his brother, and I loved his brother in Whitney, My Love. He was great. And then
his brother in Whitney, My Love is Steven, and the brother in this is Stefan. Okay.
That's funny.
Judith McNaught also named the main characters in
that's
Whitney,
weird. Whitney, My Love
kids.
is named after her children.
And then also now it's the Duke of. So then because she dedicated this book to Clay, and it's the Claymore, and then he's Clayton Claymore, which is freaking hilarious.
Yeah, so she makes choices.
So she must have then went back and wrote Until You after this one. I loved his character in Whitney, My Love, but the book itself was great. It was Amnesia. I loved everyone except for the hero. She did
Hannah
something
loves
to him.
Amnesia.
I love Amnesia. It was so fun. Like the writing was great. It was funny. It was like this, but he was horrendous. I hated him so much, and that made me so sad because like it would have been like a 5-star read if he would have been semi-tolerable. And then she also kind of ruined Nicky from Whitney, My Love. She gave him a novella, and I also hated him, and I was just like, what are you doing? So I was scared for this because I was like, I see the potential, but it's never been fully reached. But this, I feel like it reached the potential that I was like hoping it would.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy.
Royce is a hero with a capital H. Like,
no man is doing it like him.
Him calling her darling, like, darling, you don't have to kneel.
He's so soft and tender with this hard exterior that the world has put upon him, that has been thrust upon him. But he just wants to like sit in his kingdom and like take care of his wife. He just wants to retire
and eat good food. He's like a foodie.
I love that he was just like, I just think about food. Like, I'm on the battlefield thinking about food.
Yeah. And wait, when she kisses his scars and she like goes down his chest.
Yep.
And like literally like the number of times I just had to put my phone down and be like,
I have really highlighted so I was trying to like kind of go back through my highlights in the ebook to see, and well, number one, it's too many. It's just so many things that I was like, well, this is unhinged. But it's so many. Like, why is it, Royce murmured, gazing into her intoxicating eyes, that every time you surrender willingly like this, you make me feel like a king who is conquered. Yet when I conquer you against your will, you make me feel like a defeated beggar.
Yep. Yeah. Which again, like, I think we don't have to get too into it because it's a super long conversation. But consent here, I think, was a very interesting part of how she did it. And like, Caroline and I have talked, and scholars and many people have talked about this. It's nothing new. But like,
you sounded like I'm so sorry. You sounded like Donald Trump. Many people have talked.
Oh my God,
many people.
That's horrible. But
that was
like
probably the worst thing you could have said to her.
I know.
I'm really
That
sorry.
That was
I'm
a
so
critical
sorry.
hit. I rolled double ones. Oh my god.
Emotional damage.
Emotional damage. That like when she was saying no, she was saying no because society was like telling her really to say no, and that like she needed him to take the lead and to do it anyway to like be able to really explore like sexuality and sensuality and like all of that. And I really noticed that here. Like I thought it was very interesting.
Well, and especially because she almost never thinks about whether she herself wants it. She
Yep.
thinks about like, this is the enemy of my family.
Yep.
And they will never take me back if I do this thing.
Exactly.
But also Jenny never lies. So when he asks her, like,
And
did
she
you
loved
actually
that.
not
Yeah.
want it? She's like, I didn't want to get into the bed, but then once I was in there, I didn't want to leave it.
Mm-hmm.
I love
Because
that.
she won't lie to him.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's very indicative of historical romance of the like she has to say no because she can't be a slut, but like she actually wants it.
Yeah.
And I think people always like miss that, and that's why like that's why like bodice rippers get such a bad rap.
Well, and you're in her head in a way that you're like in real life. Yes, obviously you shouldn't assume that someone is saying no because of societal pressure instead. Yes. However, we're reading fiction. We're reading fiction and we're in her head.
Well, then also just like the context of 1989 and just like when he was saying like
and 17 whatever where he makes the point repeatedly.
1497.
Yeah,
like way far back.
Thank you. I'm just saying numbers now, but like where he
England's
makes the point
still
repeatedly
Catholic at this point. Church of England doesn't exist.
He makes the point repeatedly where he's like, I'm going to be sleeping late.
Yep.
You can't really stop me. But of course he never actually does force her, but he's like, and
he's
she
like,
knows it too. When her dad is like, so you can deny him heirs, and she's like, have you seen the size of that man? How do you think I'm going to stop him?
Nor do I want to. Like that was like, I was like, I want children. Like I was never like So that it was just interesting when he was like, I never gained the pleasure when I conquered you unwillingly, but like when that to me was just so good. And I think the nuance of that and of it within the book was very well done. And just because I was a little bit apprehensive, like when like at the beginning I was like, how is this text scene gonna go? And then it was really good.
When also she misleads you because in the beginning when you get the wedding scene and it's so tense and that was one of the first things the first thing I highlighted was not always Jennifer. God's voice thundered in her head because that took me the hell out. But the other one was that she was forced to wed her enemy, a brutal English warrior whose armies had oppressed her country, a man who had captured her, held her prisoner, taken her virginity, and destroyed her reputation. So you get this setup of like, oh, he's gonna rape her.
He's a monster.
But then I'd already known that people loved him. Like, so then I was like,
I didn't have that.
Yeah, so because people had told me that they loved him, didn't like her. Yeah. And so I was like, I don't think he's gonna be that villainous. And so like again, like I didn't read him as that at all. So I was still kind of like, what's the vibe gonna be? And I just loved it every time. Like every like intimate moment that they had. It was just very fascinating. And I just think very nuanced and just really, I mean, Judith McNaught again is just a great.
The only point in the whole book where I was like, was just that time when they're fighting and he like she always gives in after sex. Like sex really mellows Jenny out, and so he's like, I'm gonna like thaw this wall that she's put up by going to have sex with her. But and it's like not on page. It's like a flashback, and he's like, I went, and she just like basically like lied there.
Closed her
and, like
eyes,
she didn't say no, but she didn't do anything.
Thought of Scotland.
And he feels bad about it, and I'm like,
because he felt like the beast that she claimed that he always was. Which I think was crucial for him. And again, like it was like I wasn't like Sunshine and Roses about it. I was like, oh.
I would have preferred that you didn't do that. That you realized this before you did that.
But then I can also see him like being so desperate.
Think he needed to have that experience.
So desperate to get her to love him and to show that she can like have any sort of reaction. And so like it was just so jarring to him that it didn't work. Like again, like I'm glad it wasn't on
Well,
page.
and also to prove the point that like he can force her in the sense that she's his wife and he can
and he did it and
he did do that. Well, but to prove the point that he can, but he can't force her to enjoy it.
Yep.
And which he kind of thinks up until that point that he kind of can because he's coerced her into his bed and she's enjoyed it. And so he has this idea that like, oh, I can soften her up with this. And so to have him try it and it not work. And he's like, oh no, like I can force her to do it, but I actually can't force her to like it. Like there was something else going on the previous times.
Yeah. It is really interesting that like the ways that they get the biggest reaction out of each other is like when they freeze each other out.
Yep.
Like even like when they're going to Claymore, like the castle for the first time, and Claymore is like ignoring her. And she's like, please just talk to me. Like she's like trying to get him.
Making like all of the
she's like trying to get a rise out of him. She's like, this is how many
like
40 is.
Yeah. 40 is.
And he's like, I was trying so hard not to laugh. She's so goddamn funny.
And then he thinks about it again later on.
It reminded me of Lord of Scoundrels, that the thing that breaks him is her just agreeing with him and being very congenial. And that is like a worse torture than her fighting with him ever could be, where he's like, this is hell on earth.
Because didn't they, during that, did they sleep together too in Lord of Scoundrels and he didn't? It was like, was it very...
I don't think... Oh, maybe they...
I thought they maybe had sex and like it wasn't like she was, I don't know. It's been a while.
Like perfectly pleasant about it. I feel like I don't know.
Like I don't think she was unwilling, but I think he was just kind of like, what the frick was that? Like that was just like weird. And like like
I think it's like not really on page, but it's mentioned.
Yeah. Disarming for Lord of Scoundrels.
Nice.
Nice. That man was so disarmed, literally. Didn't work. Ugh.
Yeah.
I feel like Loretta Chase is a descendant of Judith McNaught.
Yeah.
Like I think you can see that Loretta Chase was reading Judith
through
McNaught.
line.
Yeah.
And that's what also, back to what you were saying about how like modern historical romance, like it's not like that they don't want to, like it's not the writer's fault, it's the reader's fault, because like I think most of the people writing historical romance today grew up on Judith McNaught and Loretta Chase and Jude Devereux and like all of these. So, and like even Lisa Kleypas went like harder than this, and so like the idea.
But then now looking at it, she's the one revising her work, and like
we've monologued about this on this podcast.
Yeah,
so angry.
I was gonna say we'll need like a separate podcast to talk about that and my anger about someone to watch over me or whatever it's called. Like and just kind of reading. Yeah, it's rough out here. So then to get the pleasure of really reading a novel written in 1989 that did not need, like that just felt so of its time, but also, dare I say, timeless? I don't know. Like it was just so good. Like,
no, this was like if someone asked me, like I want to read like a traditional bodice ripper. Like I'm not talking like Bridgerton. I'm talking like historical, like Fabio. I like it would be this, or it would be Lord of Scoundrel. Like it would be.
I think
something
like the Bride by
Julie Garwood.
Oh yeah,
like it's Garwood, not a bodice ripper in this. I mean, he does kind of he coerces her, but he doesn't really like.
Does he ever rip her bodice in this?
No.
I honestly think. I mean, a crazy book to start with, but Prisoner of My Desire is a true bodice ripper. I don't hate it. I didn't hate it. You
cannot tell people to read Prisoner of My Desire.
I don't know if that's people's that should be people's entry.
I think if you're this is a good one for. I want to start reading old school romance.
Gentle Rogue by
Gentle Rogue is a great one because you think it's a bodice ripper.
Indigo by
Beverly Jenkins. But it's not.
Oh, Indigo, absolutely.
Like this,
Beverly Jenkins.
Like old school for like beginners would be A Kingdom of Dreams, Indigo, Lord of Scoundrels. And then Gentle Rogue, I feel like are all very, like of the ones I've read are all very, like, not necessarily tame because shit goes down, but just a very like good introduction.
But you're not gonna get like real hardcore bodice ripper rape scenes in any of them, which I think is the thing that puts people off.
Yep.
Okay, we are ending today's episode with that, because we literally talked for 3 hours about this book, and honestly, we would have gone longer, but my computer died. So stay tuned for next week, where we have part 2 of our discussion on A Kingdom of Dreams. We'll do the cat scare. We'll squeal more about how cute everyone is and how perfect they are together. But in the meantime, the description will have all the information for where you can find the Romance Your TBR ladies. And as for us, as always, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at We Read It One Night, on Twitter at We Read It Podcast. You can email us, wereaditone@gmail.com, and you can check out our queer and romance-loving Etsy shop, Evelyn and Adelaide, which will be linked in the description. Don't forget to drop us a rating and review, and then go over to Hannah and Caroline's podcast, where we will also be doing an episode in the next few weeks. Godspeed, comrades.